Welcome back, everybody. These aren't the nerds you're looking for. Lorenzo Phan is sitting here with Kevin Hord. I'm just going to say your name this time.
That's all right.
We will be discussing Star Wars: The Clone Wars today.
Episode
we are on episode
60.
Yeah, the 60th one for Clone Wars. This is Season 3, Episode 12. This will be Nightsisters, which aired January 7th, 2011.
Production number on this one is 308. And one thing I did want to bring up is this jumps us from 21 BBY to 20 BBY. So I did take down a couple of stats. Like, this show started in the year 22 before Battle of Yavin. There were 23 episodes that occurred during this year. Then there were 36 episodes during 21 BBY. And this is our first in 20 BBY, so we will see how long it takes to get to 19 BBY, which I don't think will happen because that seems like that's episode 3 territory right there, Revenge of the Sith, right? It's 19 BBY.
Just about, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Man, that tells me, like, for the rest of this series, we're at, like, less than, like, an episode... less than an episode a week in the timeline, not in when we're going to be doing things, because we're still going at this one a week. But as far as like the adventures that are depicted in each episode, there's
more time between episodes if they were to be fully averaged out.
Yeah, well, there's less time. Like there's 20 BBY is going to contain more stories than 21 or 22 BBY did. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, I got you completely backwards at first for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, that definitely makes sense that way. So that'll be interesting then. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have quite a bit of show left to cover here. You know,
we're still not halfway through yet.
Yeah. So, but we're, just about halfway through the season? Right? 22 episodes?
Yeah, I think we're a little past halfway of season 3, but there's like 125 overall, and we're on 60, so here in like 2.5 weeks of the show, we'll be halfway through the Clone Wars.
Nice. Nice. How quickly that came.
Yeah. Quickly and not so quickly at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Did you catch writer and director on this one?
Yeah, the director is Giancarlo Volpe.
Mm-hmm.
Writer is Katie Lucas.
Yeah, she gets
regulars to this show.
She gets a solo writing credit on this one. So,
pretty cool.
I think the last Katie Lucas episode we had was with Rob from Cake Boss, which was... what was that? Pursuit of Peace? Does that sound right?
I don't know. Honestly, I can't think back that far.
Yeah.
Anyways, just moving on. The fortune cookie for this episode is the swiftest path to destruction is through vengeance.
Yeah, who you get on this? You failed.
I was going to go Dooku or Maul.
Okay, so I like that you said Maul, because at first I wrote this down as the swiftest path through destruction is through vengeance. And then I realized that I wrote it down wrong and wrote it down correctly. So in the beginning I had Maul, but then I was like, no, since it's like, this is somebody saying like, hey, if you want to destroy yourself, you're going to seek vengeance. So then I was like, okay, Yoda. Like, Yoda's the one saying, if you want destruction, you seek vengeance. Or if you seek vengeance, you get destruction. So, that's
right.
That's why I went with Yoda. But I definitely did have Maul to begin with, because it seemed like a more threatening thing the first time I wrote it down, but before I actually read it and saw what was actually going on in this thing.
Yeah. I definitely agree with your interpretation of the fortune cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I just know thematically what this fortune cookie is trying to do. This one does seem to match up with the episode that follows it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. This one does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go with your assessment there.
Okay. And update, it was Sphere of Influence with Ralph from Cake Boss, not Pursuit of Peace. So
yeah, Pursuit of Peace was just a couple of weeks ago, right?
Sorry, Ralph.
So yeah. Anyways, the newsreel for this one is very quick. It's just a couple of sentences, 3 sentences about. We got Galactic Showdown. I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's that goddamn short.
Sure.
In a fierce battle for survival, the Republic and Separatist armies have clashed in the distant Sullust system. Count Dooku's most cunning assassin, Asajj Ventress, leads the vicious attack. Simple as that.
Yeah, my note was there's a battle at Sullust, and it's led by Ventress. Done deal.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we start the show. We get a space battle. She's flying around. We also have Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi flying around.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little dogfight happening, basically. We get Ventress tailing on Kenobi. He gets shot a couple of times, but still flyable condition. Skywalker comes in, shoots her.
Yeah, so
they both basically, or all 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the second time that we cut to this.
All 3 of them go into a...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
I was going to say, that's the second time that we cut to the space battle. Like, the first time what happens is that it's Ventress and a bunch of Trident droids, and she's like, you go there, I'm going to attack the bridge. And she and like a dozen fucking droid little Trident ships blow up a fucking Star Destroyer. Then we cut down to the planet, and we're with Dooku for a bit, and Dooku Skypes with Sheevil, right? Sheevil's like, hey, we got to talk about your apprentice.
Yep.
She's super powerful. And Dooku's like, yeah, she's real important to me. Sheev's like, no, too important. Like, you need to destroy her. And then Dooku's like, oh, no, woe is me. Can't do that. And he's like, no, destroy her. That's what you're going to do. All right, he says eliminate her, but whatever. This is when we cut back up, and everybody ends up in the landing bay.
Like a separatist ship of some sort. Yeah. My question real quick about that little scene in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
How does anybody come to power regarding the rule of 2? I'm confused by this because, like, what are the limitations here? Because, like, especially in a situation like this where you would potentially need multiple generals, multiple commanders.
So what you need to do is you need to go back. Have you read the Darth Bane trilogy?
No.
Okay. Firstly, do that. Secondly, I'll summarize part of it for you. And what happens, the whole rule of 2 came from Darth Bane. Mm-hmm. Darth Bane recognized that Dark Lords of the Sith were a bunch of power-hungry a-holes, right? And once they got power, all they wanted to do is undermine everybody else and keep as much power as they could. This limited the opportunity for the Sith to rise because everybody is just squabbling over getting more power. So there's things that happen in the book that I won't spoil, but this rule of 2 thing comes up, right? So to your question, I think that it's still canon. I know it was old canon. I think it's still canon because I think it's in Tarkin, but it was definitely in was the Palpatine novel or it's the Plagueis novel, which is questionable as far as canon goes. But anyway, so Darth Sidious had his secret apprentice, Darth Maul, while Darth Plagueis was still alive, and like the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise happens like during the Phantom Menace. So I think the whole thing is that when you are an apprentice, like, you're kind of expected to eventually have some secret underling so that you are trying to overthrow your master, right? And with the rule of 2, if you are powerful enough to do that, then you deserve to be number 1. If you're not, you're probably just going to be either A, defeated by your master, or B, left for dead, maybe at best, because you've been bested by your master and he needs to go find another apprentice that is good enough to eventually take over for you. So really, like, the rule of 2 is a just continual perpetuation of, like, the growing power of the Sith. And although you are supposed to be selfish in wanting that power, you're also supposed to maybe be a little selfless, knowing that the person that you're choosing to be your apprentice, you're going to groom to one day defeat you, unless you continue to also build yourself stronger along the way.
Right. So my larger question at that is, if Dooku mentions that Asajj is his most, like, trusted companion, basically, right? Mm. And in a war situation, why at this moment would Palpatine be concerned about that? Like,
I have an answer for that as well.
Okay.
Here's my answer. Palpatine is going to say, Dooku, you need to destroy her, so that he pits the two of them together. The one that comes out victorious will remain Palpatine's apprentice. So either way, if Ventress would have bested Dooku, Palpatine would have just had a new, better apprentice. Because then he would have taken her on and continued to train her.
I mean in the larger scope of the war, though.
Because he's feeling her power rising.
Right.
He starts that conversation with, there is a disturbance in the Force, and it's your apprentice. She has grown very strong, and Dooku's like, yeah, she's very important to me. And he's like, no, she's too important to you. You need to get rid of her. You need to destroy her. That's where it came from. It comes from her growing strength in the dark side.
But what I'm saying is, like, okay, so we have Dooku and Palpatine. Palpatine's, like, calling the shots, but Dooku is still out there in the battlefield doing his thing. But a battle rages in a third section that's just being run by droids, because, fuck sending an actual general there to do that thing and maybe helping win that battle. We're just gonna fuck that. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to just limit the scope to Palpatine being afraid about his own power.
Okay.
Why is it not advantageous to still have a foot soldier of any power, like, being sent off to do, there's no war in which Dooku is going to be able to oversee all battles on many planets.
Well, so she was supposed to be in charge of this whole thing. Like, that's one of the 2 lines in the newsreel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She's in charge of this battle, but then you get the Darth Sidious angle where he's like, your Padawan is growing in power, you need to destroy her. When Dooku talks to the tactical droid, so kind of getting back to the plot a little bit, and then we'll come back to your question.
Yeah.
Obi and Annie are split up. Droids follow Annie. Ventress follows Obi-Wan, right? And then I don't know. They both get their ships hurt, and they both crash. Everybody ends up in the same.
They go inside the Separatists, yeah.
Yeah, everybody ends up in the same landing bay, right? And then they fight, and then this is when Dooku is talking to this tactical droid, and he's like, well, blow the fucking ship up. Kill them all. Like, that's what we need to do. Kill them, and then you're done. So the ship ends up blowing up. Their fight is kind of meaningless. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, the choreography is nice and whatnot.
Yeah.
The whole crashing of the ships is even more meaningless than that. Like, Obi-Wan's like, oh shit, I got shot, I'm going down. And he crashes in that landing bay. Anakin shoots Ventress. Ventress crashes. She calls to Dooku for help, and Dooku's like, no, you failed me for the last time. You're dead to me. You're not my apprentice anymore.
You're no longer my apprentice.
Right.
Yeah.
And he leaves her for dead. That's when they battle. Then everybody just jumps in their ships and takes off, and everything's fine anyway. So it's kind of whatever. But I think your question is, like, why is there just this tactical droid on the bridge of another ship? Right? And I think one...
No, it's, again, no. Broader than that. No, broader than that. You know, like, okay, let's put it in, like, Civil War terms.
Okay.
You know, you got fucking, like, Robert E. Lee and Custer.
Okay.
Right? But then, like, it's not like the only battles are in, say, Gettysburg and, I don't know, like, Atlanta. Like, there are other places where the war is raging in, like, Kentucky or Tennessee. Right? So, am I to assume that Dooku is supposed to somehow oversee each of these battles from, like, one spot?
I think you are supposed to believe that as much as you can believe that in a system of trillions of people, a couple million clones are going to do anything protecting these fucking people.
Okay.
Right.
But then, at least we have millions of clones, but then now we're just going to get it to, on the other side, just Dooku is overseeing that. But that's what I'm saying. At least, like, we have multiple Jedi overseeing little pockets of clones doing their thing.
Well, I think there's a lot of generals and shit. Like, we just haven't met them all. Like, all of the stories that we're seeing are just localized to what's going on in the lens of what we are seeing at that time. Right. You know, like, yes,
right, but then,
yes, there are all kinds of Jedi, but at the same time, the Jedi Council is like 10 people, okay? So you got 10 people, like, overseeing, like, over 10,000 fucking Jedi, right? Or there was 10,000 Jedi at the time of Attack of the Clones, right? So that's like a 1 to 1,000 fucking ratio. So what if Dooku has, like, 1,000 fucking generals, and the only ones that we see are Trench, Ventress, Grievous, and that one from way back in the day from the movie, whose name that I don't remember.
Honestly, I have no memory of it, but move on. We cannot.
General Worm Loathsome. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we've only seen like 4 or 5 of these separatist generals, but this is also more a story from the Jedi and the clone side of things.
Okay.
So I would imagine that, yeah, there probably are lots and lots of generals out there. There's going to be fewer than in the Republic because the Confederacy of Independent Systems is a smaller organization. And yes, they probably do rely on droid technology as well to lead battles and do other things. You know, Newt Gunray's got thousands of fucking battle droids at his disposal. And he's essentially part of the fucking Republic. Like, his organization has a senator in the Republic Senate. So it's not traditional warfare, and in the grand scope of things, Dooku is basically equivalent to Palpatine, and he's got like a Senate under him, and, you know, maybe some of these senators are fucking generals. I mean, you got priests, you got priests on the Republic side that all of a sudden, you know, they're peacekeepers of the galaxy, but nope, all of a sudden they're fucking generals and they're leading a war, you know.
Right.
Qui-Gon Jinn says, I can't fight your war for you, but that's exactly what fucking happens like 2 months later.
Right. Okay. I understand that. It's still just weird to me that you would want to just take out one of your own in the middle of a war.
Well, because he wants to kill. This is when his focus Iris is down to get
like
rid
his
of
own personal.
I don't even think that he cares that Obi-Wan and Anakin are in there.
Right.
He wants to get rid of
Ventress,
Ventress, and that's all.
Yeah, that part I understand. It's just the, hey, we have a general that's doing well, but, you know, like, during Gettysburg, no, let's just fucking take them out. Fuck it. Like, call that one a wash. You know, like, so I understand that focused part of it. It's just, like, in the grander scheme of things, the tactical advantage to it is not apparent to me. But we've been on this for a bit here, so.
Yeah, and I mean, that's you're 100% right, because literally Dooku is talking to a tactical droid, and the tactical droid says, this is not a good idea. If we do this, I've calculated the odds that that General Ventress will die. And Dooku says, that's why we're doing it. Do it. They blow up the ship.
Exactly.
And then Dooku says, you guys have accomplished your mission. Move on. Everybody leave. Which, in the beginning, however this battle started, it wasn't to kill Ventress. Like, this goal came along midway through, so then shit converts. My question is, like, when all of the Separatist ships turn and blow up their own, like, command ship, right? And then just turn tail and bolt out of there through fucking light space or whatever. What are, like, do you think all the clones are like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what the literal fuck just happened here?
Yeah, there are probably a lot of questions flying around.
I would imagine so.
It's a weird series of events for sure from all sides. But so anyways, Ventress does not die in the explosion.
Nope, nobody does.
Nor do nobody dies. Skywalker and Kenobi are out of there. What happens next here?
After that, we have there's like a pirate ship or something that comes up and picks up Ventress's ship, and then it's pulled inside. She's quote unquote rescued. I don't know. She gets like a shot in the arm, and it wakes her up, and it's this Twi'lek guy named Ratch, who is, it doesn't matter what his name is because he lasts all of 30 seconds. She says she wants to go to Dathomir. He questions why. So she does the natural thing of force choking him. Not only him, but like his all four of them, man.
Yeah,
and
all four of them.
It was pretty fucking awesome. Like, she does a double force choke to Anakin and Obi-Wan earlier during their duel. But she does a quadruple force choke and then smashes them all together, throws them across, hits walls. You hear bones break.
Yeah.
All four of these guys are dead. She takes their ship, goes to Dathomir. We're introduced to the Nightsisters and Mother Talzin. Mother Talzin is the head of the Nightsisters. This is a coven of Force witches, to the best of my description, that live on Dathomir. There is another character that we have already met that is from Dathomir, but we will cover that person at a later date. Because we're not
This is the first appearance of Dathomir and Mother Talzin for sure.
Yes.
So this is the full introduction.
When Ventress gets to Dathomir and sees Mother Talzin, she like collapses or something. She was headed towards some temple or some shit, and then she was intercepted by a couple other Nightsisters, who I believe are named a little bit later. But Mother Talzin is like, take her to town or to the village or whatever the fuck it is. They go there, put her on a table out in the middle of a courtyard or something, and Mother Talzin is like, bring the magic water. What'd she call it? Do you remember? Did you get this?
No, not at all. No.
Water of life.
But it's a weird
is what it is.
It's a weird sequence. It's a really weird sequence though, because other than that description, we don't really get any clear idea of what exactly is happening. They're holding these bowls of green water. Then there's like some mist
and
that
smoke.
act more mist and smoke, but they kind of act more tentacle-like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're still
Corporeal.
gaseous,
Right.
Yeah, but there's definitely some sort of thought process behind what these things are doing. But then we jump into a weird series of flashbacks.
Oh, we get an awesome flashback. It starts with Ventress being taken from the village, and Mother Talzin says, so Ventress is like on the table, right, this whole time. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to set this up properly. Ventress is on this table with the water of life, tentacle, green, air, smoke, water stuff, and Mother Talzin says, I remember when we had to give you up to save the village. Then we cut to this flashback, and it starts with Ventress being taken by this brain-headed dude that in the beginning I thought was a Jedi. Only after doing some research, it wasn't. He was just like a mercenary that took Ventress and then enslaved her to be his, do whatever he wanted with this very small child, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
It cuts to them being somewhere else. He dies, and then there's this Jedi that is there. Don't have
Kai Narek?
Yes. There it is. So when Brainhead Master dies, then she's taken by this Jedi. He trains her over the next 10 years. We have a little montage of various fights. Apparently all of this takes place on the same planet, like most of this flashback.
Right.
Okay? And this Jedi was stranded on this planet and recognized Ventress's force abilities, took her in. He was fighting against these pirates the whole time until he's killed, and then she takes his lightsaber and takes revenge on everybody. I'm guessing she just kills everybody on the whole fucking planet at that point. Then it jumps forward a little bit more to, I guess, the point where Dooku is like, I'll take you as my apprentice. I'm going to train you in the ways of the dark side. Yada, yada, yada. Then the next segment, or I guess the last segment of this flashback happens in this episode, and it's when Dooku is like, you're dead to me. You are no longer my apprentice. I'm leaving you to die.
Right.
Then she wakes up. She and Mother Talzin have a little bit of a conversation about how she knows that Dooku betrayed her. So did Mother Talzin. She's happy that she's finally back. Wishes that it could have been sooner. And then Ventress says, I'm going to get my revenge. And Mother Talzin is like, yes, I know you will, and I'm going to help you. I think
I will say, I wish some of this stuff, or all of this stuff that happens in this flashback, almost could have deserved its own kind of flashback episode. You know?
Yeah, I don't disagree. But the way that it was presented, I think it was a nice, succinct way to kind of wrap up an origin story for Ventress within what is going on currently.
Right. And I understand that, like, almost, if anything, I would have appreciated, like, just whatever happens on the table happens. We don't get the flashbacks, but then maybe we get, like, a full episode that is, like, this is something, like, I feel like happens on Walking Dead often, where we just get, like, time jump back and then time jump forwards again, right?
This is why you didn't watch Lost, I'm guessing.
Right, I hated Lost. I watched 6 episodes of Lost, and I could not stand it. But
it's a great 90-hour movie.
That goes nowhere? I'm just going to call it. But as somebody who knows how the show ends.
But it does. Anyway.
But yeah, like, this is some, like, as example there, this is something that happens on other shows where entire episodes can just take side steps, and that's A-okay. But I just feel like that would have helped me sympathize with her a lot more.
Okay.
And see that journey. Like, I would have liked that expanded out rather than like these weird quick glimpses, and the fact that we then loop back into the start of this episode or earlier in the episode with a flashback to Dooku himself. Like, that one stood out to me as just kind of being odd.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, because, like, you know, even with commercials, we're talking about maybe 10 minutes prior, less than, right?
So what if it would have just... What if the last bit of the flashback would have been the setup for the mission that she was on? Not like, oh, Master, help me. And he's like, nah, fuck off.
Better, but I mean, I don't know. The flashes all together are still a little just quick, and I like it's giving me information, but it's not giving me emotion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's definitely like a memory montage.
Right. And the other thing that has nothing to do with anything really that throws me off is that her mother has despite being an alien, has the "Can I speak to your manager" haircut with the side slope bangs and kind of longer hair in the back and sort of situation.
Yeah, I had a different description for that type of haircut, but I'll keep it to myself. But
anyway, so that's my note on the flashback sequence. But then she wakes up.
Yes, she wakes up.
We get
proclaims revenge. Mother Talzin gives her 2 of her Nightsisters, which she says are like the best warriors that she has. This is Karis and Nalith. And she's like, they're going to go help you. Then we cut to a scene where there's like a whole bunch of chanting, and then Mother Talzin has another like molcajete bowl, like a volcanic bowl hollowed out thing, right? And turns out she's making a shadow potion, or a potion of shadows, or something. After the chanting is done, there is some levitation that goes on, and then everybody kind of drops down to their knees. Good old MT puts this thing to the ground and says, hey, step into the smoke, to which they do, and then they come out as like smoky, shadowy figures instead of like actually defined visually. And
right.
She says, this will help you sneak into Dooku's palace. Ventress says, will it work on Dooku himself? And she's like, yeah, maybe, sure. Okay, yeah, maybe.
Right.
She wasn't 100% sure.
Talos is very eager to add maybe in there. She's very clear.
And then she gives Ventress a poison dart. She's like, here, use this poison dart. It'll help cloud his senses also. Then she hands over some lightsabers. And one of, I don't know if it's Karis or Nala, says, lightsabers? She's like, yeah, you guys have to make sure that Dooku thinks you're Jedi. Did you realize that Mother Talzin had like another whole ulterior motive, like a bigger plan than just like them going in? Because it's definitely alluded to that she can see future events. She can see what's going on.
Yeah.
So she has a reason to want Dooku to think that it is Jedi and not Ventress.
Yeah, like it was definitely a specific enough point that I knew something was up, right? But yeah, I will say the effect of the smoke invisibility is really cool. I don't think we've seen something like this quite yet in the animation, like technically speaking.
Yeah, it's like a smoky stealth mode.
Right. Think of an even less clear version of like what Frodo looks like when he puts the ring on in Lord of the Rings, where you get like that weird like flame effect that's kind of undefining his edges, but then just apply that with smoke instead.
Yes.
You know, and I only bring that up because, you know, I will say the animation for this episode definitely stood out to me in a good way. Like, we are getting to the point where even with Obi-Wan and Anakin, there's expressiveness. Same with Asajj Ventress, you know. But then adding a special effect like this essentially into the show could only mean a shit ton of rendering time.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad they went that extra mile for something like this here.
Yes, I agree with you.
So, yeah. So I just wanted to make that comment there. But then, what do we got happening next year?
I had
the
one
sabers.
question after lightsabers before what happens next, and it's basically where do you think these lightsabers came from?
I'm imagining just other Nightsisters went off and did other things, so maybe there were either other assassination attempts, or not attempts, but successful assassinations, sort of thing, or other various means of entrapment of Jedi that maybe got tricked into it, but still didn't end up well for them. Either way, Jedi died.
Okay.
Sort of situation, right?
Because the reason I'm asking is because both times I watched this episode, apparently I wasn't looking at the screen when the lightsaber handoff happened. And
right.
I thought, like, I heard both times Jedi weapons or something. I was like, oh, she's just getting, like, her lightsabers back. Because they took them from Ventress when she arrived on planet. Like the other Nightsisters did. So I was just assuming that she got hers back, and then I was totally proven wrong because there's actually 3 of them. We got 2 green and 1 blue. This is so that we can differentiate and we know who is
Asajj and 2 other randos.
Correct. So our trio head over to Count Dooku, which I guess he is on Sullust. They were on Dathomir. I guess he's on Sullust. Is that what I'm getting? Was the battle above the planet
Wiki
that he was on? Or no?
No, Wiki says it's at his palace on Sereno.
Like the pepper?
Serenno. Sereno.
Okay. So Sereno.
So it's at his personal palace.
How about that?
Yeah.
We've got some
It's his home.
Some witchy tree jumping going on here.
It's the first appearance of Sereno as well, by the way.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
Sereno number 1. Yeah, we got some witchy tree jumping. They definitely take the same ship from this poor Ratch guy. He and his crew are dead, and I imagine that they're just laying on their carcasses are just laying on the floor. Nobody cared.
Didn't bother cleaning that up. Yeah.
Not at all. But yeah, when they get to the palace, Ventress cuts like a nice square into the side instead of the traditional circle, which we have seen mostly. And the only other time that I can remember this happening is back during the weapons factory when Zach from Reclone podcast was on with us. It was Barisofi, cut a nice square hole to get into the catacombs there. Regardless of the entry shape, they go inside. Ventress is like, yeah, down this way. She's giving directions, and one of the other smoke sisters is like, oh, how do you know where to go? And she says, I can smell his stench a parsec away.
Yeah. There's nothing good about that line.
No. Bad guys are stinky, I guess. I don't know. They sneak up on him. He's totally asleep. Ventress uses the Force/magic to like force dart him in the neck.
Yep.
Dooku wakes up, definitely thinks they're Jedi. They fight. The fight lasts for like most of the rest of the episode. There is some cool stuff that happens. He's holding his own pretty well, considering he's got like some drugs in him that are supposed to dull his senses, and he's got 3 smoke lady monsters trying to attack him. Although their lightsabers definitely betray their location constantly. Right?
Say it one more time.
I said their lightsabers definitely give away their locations constantly because their lightsabers are ignited.
Right.
And
that's crystal clear. Yeah, I was wondering the rules too, because when the handoff of the lightsabers happen, they're clear, and then when they're both, when Mother Talzin is holding on to one end, and when any of the Nightsisters is holding on to their end, it's still visible. And then when Mother Talzin lets go, then the lightsaber also joins the shroud cloud, I guess. But then it's weird to me that the saber is not included in the shroud cloud.
Like the light itself?
Yes, the blade portion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with
you. It's a weird rule delineation. Yeah.
I mean, I think we can agree that it is for identification purposes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, it's a weird weakness in this ridiculous plan anyways. Like, ridiculous not from a tactical standpoint, from, like, in-universe, but even from just, like...
More of, like,
just from, like, a writing standpoint. Just, like, a real-world writing standpoint where, like, okay, we're going to have these sisters that they're clouded, but they're not fully invisible. But then, like, anything that they're on or they're holding, like their clothes, whatever, that also gets included in the shroud cloud. But this one thing definitely does not. Like,
is it not like Wonder Woman and the Invisible Plane?
Sort of, I guess. I don't know.
Or Sue Storm and her powers of invisibility. Like, I guess with her clothes don't change, but her makeup does.
Because, like,
her earrings do.
Because Sue can... Yeah, but... I think... Yeah, because, like, there were certain rules, like, I think Incredibles tried to play with it more, where it's, like, the suit itself was possible, but she still had to, like, she wasn't wearing or, like, her headband it was included, but nothing else was. Mm-hmm. Like, anything she picked up wasn't included, right?
Yeah. I know that in, like, the first two Fantastic Four movies, it was explained away by, like, the suits that they had on in space when they got the cosmic radiation or whatever, somehow were imbued with the same powers that they had. So it was just like plot contrivance, convenience. Yeah, it's totally the way it was.
Yeah.
The most recent Fantastic Four, I have no fucking idea. But
I didn't bother to watch it. Did you?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters. We'll talk about that another day.
I'm so sorry.
That's fine. I totally had another idea here. Like Superman and his invulnerability, but like it projects like millimeters out from his body or whatever, so that way he can fly through fire and not come out naked on the other side. Type deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That. Yep.
So same. I
mean,
it's the same level of. You need to just get over it and deal with it. Type of deal.
Yeah. But remember, Man of Steel, his shirt did burn off.
I don't remember that. Must have been very, very hot.
Yeah, it was basically like the first scene when he's on the boat and then he's like rescuing, the oil tanker or something like that.
Yeah, but that's not his super suit.
Oil rig, something
rig.
Catches fire, but. Yeah, something catches fire. He's in the fire. His shirt comes off. Anyways, moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, but so the lightsaber blades are just so visually we
know who's who.
Yeah. The viewer can see where the good guys are. Is Asajj Ventress a good guy in this? She a bad guy? Who's the bad guy? Dooku's the bad guy, right?
Well, she's the protagonist. Yeah, she's the protagonist. I would call it that way.
Right. So if we were just gonna boil that down to good guy, bad guy, she'd be the good guy in this section of the show. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yep. Indeed.
So anyway, they fight. eventually she does like another force push, knocks down Dooku, and then does like a little force flick with the wrist and knocks his lightsaber out of the way. She does the slow creep with floaty lightsaber blade up to him to take him out, and instead force lightning, not only to her but to all three of them. Which when he hit her with force lightning, I was like, oh, this is good. But then like he reaches his other hand up and he's got 2 force lightning bolts coming out, hitting the other 2, and I was like, okay, this is not as good. And then he just throws them all out the window.
Yep.
Of course, the window is at the top of a cliff.
Yeah.
They mace Windu their way out the window and survive down at the bottom, because I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah,
it's a weird situation where Ventress is able to like grab to the side of the cliff and stop herself.
Yeah, they may use witchy force magic. I think that anything can be explained away by that.
Great. Sounds great.
And anyway, they're like, one of them was like, holy shit, that guy was like super tough. He was like badass, and I didn't think he'd be that tough. She's like, I tried to warn you. And then we just cut back to Dathomir, and Ratchet's ship is landing, and they come out, and then one of the Nightsisters, I couldn't tell these two apart. They're voiced by different actresses.
No. Nope. I could not point them out to you in a lineup.
I don't know. I don't know which one's which.
No.
One was voiced by Padme, I think, and the other one by somebody that I didn't recognize. But anyway, one of them's like, oh, Mother Talzin, we failed. Mother Talzin totally sticks up for this seemingly failed mission. She was like, oh, what some people see as failed, other people see as opportunity. And she continues to explain that they essentially exposed Dooku's vulnerability, and that now he is going to recognize that he definitely needs a backer again. Now that Ventress is gone, he needs somebody to replace her. And so what happens is that Mother Talzin then Skypes into Dooku and is like, hey, I heard your apprentice is gone. And he's like, yeah. How'd you know that? And she was like, don't forget, she was one of our own at one point in time. She came from my village. So since she's gone and you replaced Darth Maul, why don't you get another somebody from our planet? But since you can't tame the women, let's give you a man, because they're easier to deal with. And he basically says, yeah, sounds good. Let's talk later.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we got a night dude coming up some point.
Yeah, we get night brother, I guess.
Night bro. Yep.
And we cut back to just Mother Talzin as their space Skype call is ending. Ventress walks around from behind her and again avows vengeance against Dooku. I think that's it, right? Cue loud music. Iris in. Done. Cut to credits.
Yep, indeed. That's it for that one.
The only note that I had was Mother Talzin was voiced by Barbara Goodson. And then, like I said, I'm pretty sure that it's Catherine Tabor that does the voice of Padme, right? She did one of...
I could not tell you.
She did one of the Nightsisters. The other one I did not make note of, so sorry
honestly,
to Nightsister
regarding the two Nightsisters, I didn't make a single note at all, just because they were just there.
Yeah,
I moved on with my life, honestly.
Duplicate, pale female ninjas in red. That's basically what we had there. So
no discerning personalities whatsoever to either of them.
So I have a prediction of what your thumbs up, thumbs down is going to be.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that you're going to give this a down. I think you're a downer on this one.
Yeah, I will admit I was close on this one. Right after I finished watching it, I felt decent about it, but then there are parts of this that I am troubled by, in the telling of it. Flashbacks are kind of one thing. It's a weird thing. I remember upon original. This is an episode I do remember watching the first time I made a run through the show.
Okay.
And I don't remember ever being negative about it prior, the way I am about other episodes that have stuck with me equally as long or longer, per se. But yeah, it's the way the story unfolds is so. There's so many weird steps to it. So we get this dog fight with Anakin and Obi-Wan, then they disappear, or we get a dog fight, then we get the lightsaber fight, then they disappear. And I agree with you. It was like a weird moment of like, oh, their ships are okay. Then that whole sequence of them being in danger. It just like all it took was R2-D2 extinguishing the flames and everything's fixed. Everything's A-okay. Sure. What?
And the whole R2-D2 with fire extinguisher is just a joke because like the ship's not even really on fire like that badly. Like it looks like it from afar, but then by the time they get up there, Anakin like knocks on the windshield and Obi-Wan opens it, and then R2 sprays him in the face with the fire extinguisher.
Right.
And like puts out a little bit of flame there.
Right.
I thought it was fun.
So really, we get this odd. It's an oddly empty episode. Honestly, like a lot happens, but really, it's told in such an inefficient way. Does that make sense? Like, there's some important shit that gets set up here.
There is.
Right? And everything about all of that, I am down for. I'm completely on board for. Right. But it's in the telling here that it's where it falls apart for me.
Right.
So, but again, it's not a heavy thumbs down. It's very close. I really was feeling a thumbs up initially, but as I sat with it, I wasn't feeling good about this one.
Did we talk you into a thumbs down during the last?
No. I was already feeling. No, I was feeling thumbs down. It was like literally like I finished the episode. I'm like, okay, that was fine. And then like maybe like 2 minutes later,
I think you should go back and watch this one again. I give this one a solid thumbs up, man. I like this one a lot. Like, objectively, like, I find it interesting that there is like a big lightsaber fight scene real close to the beginning. I also find it interesting that it kind of doesn't matter. And then my favorite stuff here is the Nightsisters, right? Once we get to Dathomir and once like learning some backstory about Ventress, I disagree with your thought that that should have been another episode. I think it definitely could have held its own as an episode, or maybe even like multiple episodes. I don't think that it's necessary, only because she's traditionally been on the bad dude side of things, and we don't normally get that. Like, if she was, if it was like Ahsoka having like a flashback or something like that, then I would be more prone to say that is something that we should have seen more developed in episodic form, right?
It's also the flashback sequence goes on, like, if you're gonna do flashbacks in that format,
it goes on for a while on this episode, right?
But that's what I'm
like
saying.
4 minutes.
Yeah, for flashbacks. So like instead of, and so it, to me, it's just that effect of having like the clouded out edges that we've seen in episode 2 and episode 3 when Anakin's having his premonitions, right? But those last for moments, right? This goes on for an entire scene. So then just fucking stop the flashback format, or at least stop that weird, like, to me, once you go that long, then like that flared edges flashback style gets so cheesy to me.
So you're basically saying,
right?
like, stop the effect and just let it be part of the story?
Right, just cut back and forth. Like, I'm not going to not understand that child that we just saw in the previous flashback is the same child without that flame effect on the edges.
Now, what about when
right?
you were
or the
10?
the cloudy whatever?
Would you have understood then?
Yeah, just cut back and forth, you know.
Okay.
It's, you know, it's like just like the Titanic style of storytelling, right? Like, we see old Rose, we see young Rose, and then it keeps going. You don't have to remind me that it's young Rose. Like, I know it's young Rose.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? So it's stuff like that where as I just sat with it, like, even when it was happening, it was that, and there was like one line that the young Ventress says that really was weird to me too, when the slaver dies.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't write down the line, but she just has like this awful delivery of a line that's like, "Oh no, you're dead."
I think she says,
like,
"Master, you died," or "Master, they killed
right.
you." It's
right.
one of the two.
So it's like, it's something like that. So who is she saying that for? And why is she saying that? Like,
that's to me, that's kind of like whatever, you know, the dialogue, and plus add, you know, little kid into that. It is what it is. My question was, like, Mother Taliesin makes a point of saying, "I remember when we had to sacrifice you to save the village," or "I remember when we had to give you up to save the village."
right.
So there's like this brain-headed alien guy.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I thought this was a Jedi that, like, recognized her Force abilities and came to take her away.
Right.
But it turns out it's not. It's like a mercenary pirate
Definitely
dude.
not.
So what was the threat that they just gave up a young child?
Yeah. See, that was my question as well. I had that question as well. And this is why I wish they would have either expand on the flashbacks, or just have it be its own, like, yeah, instead of like this weird sequence of her like writhing on the table, start there, go into a middle act that is this sequence of events. Mm-hmm. Then we'll close out Act 3 with all the Dooku shit we need to finish up with, right?
That's funny, because when I first watched this episode, I was like, what if the Clone Wars TV series started here, just like mid-battle, and Dooku's like, "You're not my apprentice anymore. Like, I can't do it. You're done." And Obi-Wan and Anakin like pop in, have a little lightsaber duel, and then like just bust ass out for the rest of the episode. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel this one. The reason I give this one a thumbs up is, it's fun to me. Like, we're introduced to this other aspect of the Force. We have this witchery stuff going on. They literally call themselves a coven, and they use spells and shit, and there's definitely some Force sensitivity and Force activity going on there, but there's like another step to it, which just kind of opens another door into a whole aspect of the Force that I would love to learn about.
Right.
And that's what solidifies my thumbs up.
Yeah. I'm all open for that. I just need the focus shifted.
Sure.
You know. So I'm like I said, I was very close to giving this a thumbs up, but upon reflection and sitting with this, and you know, that is why too I do try and watch this episode as close to recording time as possible, just to get that like initial reaction. We just jump into this and we can talk about it. But you know, so like that's why it wasn't just us talking about it that steered me down, right? It just
it happens sometimes.
I didn't have that same excitement coming out of this. Like I definitely was kind of just watching this episode passively.
That's
right.
That's fair enough. Do you have any anticipations for the future? Is the storyline going to continue, or are we just going to jump to something else? What do you think?
This is, like I said, this is a section of the show that I do remember fairly well, so I hesitate to say any more.
You can go ahead.
I have an idea of like the Night Brother that shall be entering.
We got
and the fact that we get this set up, the fact that we have this set up, this is definitely way open-ended.
This was a big build-up during this season. Okay, so this would have been after the mid-season break, and I think that this story arc, which is at least 3, if not more, if not 4 episodes, right? This was a thing that was centralized as information that was being presented at Celebration 4 in Orlando. So this is back when Star Wars Celebrations had numbers. But yeah, there was like a big reveal of a character that we're going to be coming into, so I don't want to talk too much more about that. But yeah, this would have been like a main panel event, like seeing what's coming in the Clone Wars at this time. So that being said, we'll just intro the episode title of next week. That's Monster. So come back next week for a little bit more. Speaking of Star Wars Celebration, tomorrow, as far as when this is released, will be April 11th. So I'll be headed up to Chicago. Lorenzo, you're probably already on the way there.
I'll be landing. Yeah. I'll be
today.
Showing up.
So maybe you guys will hear more about that.
It's coming up. Yeah, we'll try and do some updates that we can. It'll likely just be mostly like social media updates, probably.
Speaking of social media,
maybe that Instagram will actually be used. Yeah. But so if you want to keep track of that, we're on Twitter at NotTheNerds. The Instagram, which has not been used whatsoever, is not at NotTheNerds Podcast. Facebook is also at NotTheNerds Podcast. If you want to email us for any reason, do so at nottheNerdsPodcast@gmail.com. As always, you can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. We're also available there, and the audio also is uploaded to YouTube.
Yes, sir.
With a static image. So anywhere you're listening to us, give us a like, subscribe, review us, please. Comments are great. We like to try and engage as much as we can with people who listen. But as always, too, we like to give a shout out to Kevin Warren at They Call Me K-Dub on Twitter. He's the man who put together the cover art for us, and Lindsay, strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. She put together the jingle you hear at the beginning and end of each episode. So again, until next week, hopefully we'll be giving you updates at Star Wars Celebration. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully Kevin and I will get into any of these panels because there's a weird system.
Yeah, before recording here, we had to go through a process of trying to link. I don't know, whatever, doing stuff.
Yeah. But if you're there as well, if you're there, reach out on Twitter. Let us know that you're there. We'll be running to a bunch of fans, obviously, at Star Wars Celebration, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Lastly, I will say that recently I did get the login info for Instagram. I'm going to try to learn some stuff about that so I can contribute a little bit to our Instagram account on or during Star Wars Celebration. And that's all I got for this week. So until next week, I've been Kevin. That's been Lorenzo. And these aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.